We have some breaking news as a major report has come out regarding Mitch Marner's future in Toronto, and this report might shock a lot of Leafs fans. We're going to break down that exact report and discuss why this could change everything for the Toronto Maple Leafs going forward. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we do, if you're part of the large percentage who aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that button. We're on the road to 11,000 subscribers, and we're getting very, very close, so it means the world to Darius and myself if you could do that. But Darius, a shocking report came out today from Darren Dreger, and quite frankly, not what Leafs fans wanted to hear, at least not what a lot of Leafs fans wanted to hear. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's dive into this. And it dropped today. Leafs fans are up in arms discussing it. We had a video earlier today about some other things, and then this came out. So the quote was from Darren Dreger, quote, "I think Treliving would rather extend Mitch Marner than trade him." And the Mitch Marner keep/trade saga continues, with a new report suggesting that Toronto would rather keep the forward than trade him this summer. So Darius, I'll get into the exact full quote in a minute, but this is a little bit surprising because everything seemed to be pointing to Mitch Marner getting traded, and now Darren Dreger comes out and says this. However, if you look back in the past a little bit, back to 2019, it seems like Dreger could be a bit of a mouthpiece for Darren Ferris.
Not a bit of one, the one, I think, in a way. So I think everything regarding Mitch Marner now for the next couple of weeks, take with a grain of salt. Don't believe every single thing you read because there's a lot to it, and there's going to be a lot of posturing going on. And like you mentioned, dating back to 2019, Darren Dreger was the one reporting a lot of the Mitch Marner negotiations around that time as well. And we'll get to that later in the video. So just be careful what you read right now, because not everything is 100% truth. And one thing I noticed too through this whole thing is the Leafs have been pretty relatively quiet, especially in terms of the Mitch Marner situation. We haven't heard too much about it. Obviously, there was that one interview we covered with Brad Treliving when he was at the Combine, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And he just gave a quick little quote about it, and they're, a little bit of their plans, but not too much. Again, not revealing too much, but the Leafs have been fairly quiet. So anything that says, the Leafs are looking to extend Mitch Marner rather than trade him, I'm not sure that's coming from the team specifically.
Yeah, and let's just dive into it. The exact full quote from Darren Dreger. So obviously, I think Treliving would rather extend Marner than trade him. That was kind of the big headlining piece of news. And he said, now, if Brad Treliving has a conversation with a club or clubs and there's a potential trade scenario that develops from those conversations, then yeah, he could take that to Marner's camp. And Marner camp could say, all right, you obviously don't want me, so I'm okay with that. And by the way, there's a big extension that comes with it. Okay, yeah, fine. So it's kind of going into some of the hurdles that come with trading Mitch Marner at this point of his career, the offseason, and the way his contract is structured. 85 points, 69 games, 27 years old, entering his prime. Very, very good player. But the question now is, where would the Leafs go from here if they extend him is now the question that must be put in play. It's better than losing him for nothing, I think. In theory, it would be. But again, the cap is still a big problem for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I don't know. It's a little bit scary that this report came out. That being said, take it with a grain of salt because Darren Dreger is probably feeding that information to the media because Mitch Marner's camp is telling him to do so they can either get traded or get a bigger contract in the long run anyways.
Yeah, there's a bit of posturing because Dreger went on to say, too, that Mitch Marner's preference is to stay in Toronto. And I do believe that. I'm sure he would want to stay at Toronto Maple Leaf. I just don't think either camp can do it for the price that he wants. And like I said, there is posturing going on where within that quote, you could see it. He wants the extension, whether it's here or somewhere else. He wants it to be maybe a sign and trade. So it sounds like they're kind of putting it out there, his camp at least, that this is what we're looking for, feeling out through the media. This is exactly what we're looking for. We want an extension, and if you do want to move on from us, hopefully it comes with an extension around 12 million. That's been the number that's just been thrown around a lot, but that's what it sounds like this is kind of to me. It doesn't sound like this is 100%, truth, and it's going to absolutely happen this way. I think the Leafs have a job to do. They know how they have to upgrade the team, and it might be without Mitch Marner. So they're going to consider everything. And we talked about it too. They're not going to ask him to waive his no trade clause, then go look for a trade. They'll probably start looking for trades coming up here shortly. And if one, is to their liking, they'll probably ask the player to waive. And again, at the end of the day, he's a great player. So it's going to warrant a lot, and the extension will probably be a lot, whether it's here or somewhere else. So we'll just have to see what that looks like. But personally, I doubt the Leafs sign Mitch Marner to an extension worth 12 million. I just don't think, by everything we've seen, I don't think that they believe that's the way to go anymore.
Yeah, it would almost be putting them back into square one to a degree and where they were at the start of this offseason, really since 2018, where they haven't been able to win anything. Obviously, there's a chance that they extend him and think, okay, Berube is the missing piece for this team, and they run it back with similar players with Max Domi, Tyler Bertuzzi, which will have a video coming out soon. But it's a little bit not or discouraging, sorry, to see that this is coming out, even though it is probably from the Marner camp. And if it's from the Marner camp, makes sense. They're trying to get more and more money with each passing day. And you can see here from Chris Johnson, they have not decided 100% that they have to trade him and that they're going to make life uncomfortable, and they're getting a list of names. None of that is what's going on. And he's basically saying that it's kind of been silent both ways so far for the camp. Like, we haven't heard much from the Toronto Maple Leafs side. We also haven't heard much directly from Mitch Marner's camp as much as we did a couple weeks ago when he came out, aside from saying that he wants to pursue free agency. But Darius, we can go back to that report from a couple weeks ago where Ferris said he wants to play the season out with the Leafs and then go into free agency. So now if this is the case, it's clear that that original report was probably just leverage again. So it's all just mind games at this point. It's all just leverage. But I think ultimately he's going to get traded. I've been on that camp the whole time. But reports like this make me a bit less optimistic about that happening in a timely manner, or less optimistic about the Leafs actually getting a good package for him.
Yeah, and I think it could still go either way because we don't know exactly what they're going to do. Personally, I think that, logically speaking, they probably should move on from this player because you haven't found success with the current makeup of the team. So you probably should move on. But it's going to be very interesting. I mean, both sides still have some time. Nylander only signed midway through his contract year, right? Or, he was being led to UFA status. So they still have time here. He's not, you don't have to sign him technically till next summer. Of course, they're saying that he might test free agency. But so he's, like you said, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of wordplay, a lot of mind games, it sounds like, through the media. So it's going to be interesting to keep track of all of this heading into July 1st, because again, he's not going to get traded until July 1st. There won't be talks of extension till around that time. So pretty interesting. But one thing to keep in mind with the Darren Dreger thing, yes, great reporter for, TSN, all of that. But dating back to 2019, we have evidence that, he was, passing along information from Marner's camp at that time even. So this could be another example of that.
Probably is. Honestly, I would be surprised if this ends up. I can't say. I feel like an extension is at least before today was the least likely option between a trade or letting him walk. But Darius, before we wrap up, this is an interesting thing here, and I'll let you kind of break this down. And this is what I was referring to earlier when I said 2019, dating back to when he was looking for that initial contract extension in 2019. You can see here from 2019, I agree. Best offer better be north of 10 million and perhaps north of 11 million per year to encourage Marner to ignore the outside interest beyond July 1st. At this point now, where Dreger just gives Paul Marner his phone, which is obviously Mitch's dad. So what are your thoughts on this? Bit funny, but it lends credence to the fact that this report is probably being spit directly from their camp.
Yeah, it sounds like it's probably coming from their camp. And this is just an example from back then that he, gave out almost the exact amount of the dollar amount that he ended up getting on that contract. So this is kind of where it started, and people started to catch on that, Darren Dreger might be releasing information from the camp, which is, that's fine, right? You got to use what leverage you have. But he ended up getting that exact dollar amount, or in that range that he mentioned. So this sounds like it's probably another example of that. So like I said, don't read or believe everything 100% of what you read coming up here, because a lot of it sounds like this is negotiations through the media, and kind of telling them what you want without actually telling them to their face or directly.
Yeah, especially from the Mitch Marner stuff. But we'll have you covered all the way through, and hopefully we'll get a resolution over the next coming weeks, but who really knows about that? But that'll wrap it up. Let us know in the comments your thoughts are on all this. Make sure to subscribe button. We'll see you soon.